is Wink Tracks the Tropics, powered by the Weather Authority.
When the tropics are active, timing is everything. The Weather Authority is keeping you prepared.
The latest update did come in from the National Hurricane Center. Helene moving north-northeast. Winds have increased up to 90 miles per hour.
Keeping you informed.
It's now 170 miles northwest of us. And as we had mentioned, this is a major Cat 4 hurricane. This is going to have major landfall implications.
Southwest Florida has seen its fair share of storms in the past few years.
We are leaving immediately after this because it is not safe. You're starting to see some of these debris, sticks flying up and out, and it's one of the reasons why Sanibel is evacuated. It clearly is not safe out here.
But our slice of paradise has bounced back in ways we'd never expect.
It's tough.
We have each other, and that's a good thing.
I wouldn't have made it without Marianne. We're gonna make it, though. We're gonna make it.
Wink News has been there with you every step of the way, and that won't change.
Yes, we avoid the worst part of the storm, but the wind field's growing and the pressures are deepening. We're going to feel more of that influence on the back end with the surge.
From forecast cones to important safety reminders, the Weather Authority has you covered. You're watching Wink Tracks the Tropics. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wink Tracks the Tropics. I'm Wink's Weather Authority Val Simpson, and already we know what's going to happen with Lorenzo. Tropical storm Lorenzo is on its way out. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit, but we are keeping an eye on a new tropical wave coming off the coast of Africa. It already did. And I'm going to tell you why it's something that we are watching. Obviously, we're going to be doing that with our panel of Mets. But before we get to that, I want to remind everybody that this is an interactive platform, which means that if you're watching us on Facebook or on our YouTube channel, you can leave your comments. You can let us know where you're watching from. If you have a question for our panel of Mets, we'll be happy to answer them for you in real time. And Andrew's already one step ahead of me, guys. This is the question of the day to start things and kick off things. So it's a very interesting one. We were talking about it before we went on air. But if you could eliminate one kind of Florida weather forever, what would you pick? Hurricanes, humidity, or love bugs? Out of here. Let's go ahead and punch in our panel of Mets. What's up, guys? Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everyone. A special shout out to Andrew, our director for the show. His coffee is superb. By the way, he said he'd bring some, and Val and I both have it. Josh doesn't partake in the coffee game. Unfortunately, you don't know what you're missing, my friend.
I'll
find out one day.
You do not know what you're missing.
Delicious pecan flavor, right, Andrew? That's where he got it right.
Southern
right.
pecan, or Southern pecan, if you're going to be as Southern as the word itself.
Very good. Yes, delicious coffee, and boy, do we need it. Especially Zach. I know you've been up since, I don't know, midnight.
I wake up early. Yeah.
Guys, what do you think? What are your thoughts? What do you think people are going to choose if we could just, get a Florida weather out of here? What would it be? Hurricanes, humidity, love bugs? I don't think love bugs is a deal anymore.
You put the love bugs on there. That's really clever. But what about the mosquitoes?
I was gonna say
Those
the
might be
mosquito
worse than the love bugs, honestly. So maybe mosquitoes not weather, but that's the one I'm getting rid of.
Yeah. What are your thoughts? Oceana, what do you think?
Honestly, I would say hurricanes, of course. But other than that, humidity, that really gets me. If you go over the West Coast, the western part of the country, Colorado, anywhere over there, and it's 80 degrees, it does not feel nearly as oppressive as it does here. So I would knock that out of here.
I'm going to say I did do, I think it was June in Arizona for brother-in-law's college graduation at GCU, and I thought it was 99 and low humidity, and I thought that was just downright dumb. Everyone says that the dry heat, I thought it was way too hot.
Really?
I missed the humidity a little bit. I was drinking so much water that I didn't even know what to do with myself. My body. My wife said you would actually gain weight because of how much your body's trying to hold on to the water for how dry it is. And I'm just saying.
Yeah.
My season, I wouldn't want. I'm gonna go. Is there a no-see-em season? I know we're on the bug thing, but I think a certain type of humidity brings the no-see-ems out, especially in the mornings and the evenings on Sanibel. I would say no-see-em season. If we could get rid of the humidity that causes the no-see-ems, I would say whatever causes those things, those critters at the beach, I'll live without them. Yeah.
Yeah, good point. Good point. I mean, we were talking, we were like, I think most people are going to say no hurricanes, But if that were the case, then we would be out of a job, you guys. So I think
Someone's got to forecast a chance of rain in the afternoon still. I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll do it.
On dry season.
Sign me
Good
up.
deal, good deal. But we are going to be reading your comments. Let us know what you guys think. Okay, and let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to give everybody a quick little review of what we're going to be talking about today. Like I mentioned at the beginning, Tropical Storm Lorenzo looks like it's on its way out. We just got the new advisory from the National Hurricane Center, and basically it's been dealing with a lot of shear. So it never really intensified the way that initially we thought that maybe it could become a low-end category hurricane. However, that is not the case. We've noticed also that it was encountering, or it's going to be encountering also a trough with dry air as well, so that has a lot to do with it. But here you have the stats as of 11 o'clock this morning. So it is producing max sustained winds of 45 miles per hour. It's moving northwest at 15 miles per hour, as you can see, and it doesn't look very impressive at all in this satellite. So take a look at the cone. It's very likely that it's going to be fizzling out in the next day or two. Some models had it as doing a loop-de-loop kind of around the way, so we'll see if that even happens. But as you can see, it's going to continue to stay steady with those 45 miles per hour winds, and then probably as we get closer to the end of the week, it's going to be dying out. And that is everything that we have on Tropical Storm Lorenzo. It never brought any type of risk to land. Obviously, I don't even have to say it, to Southwest Florida or the United States at all, as you can see, headed in a completely different direction. Now, the next name on the list would be Melissa. And the reason why we're keeping a close eye on that is because there is a tropical wave that came off the coast of Africa, and we are wanting to, some models do have this potential wave headed west. And there is a possibility, some models, very low chance at this point, that they might develop it. However, I do want to mention, and I'm going to say this right off the bat, the National Hurricane Center doesn't even have an X on it as of yet. So no yellow X on this. We might see a yellow X probably in the next day or two perhaps, but for right now, this is the wave that we're talking about that you see on screen. And like I said, some of the main models, like the European model or the American model, do have it moving west. I also have a ensemble long range from Google AI, which has been one of the newer forecast models that we have been considering, especially this season. So I do want to show you kind of what this, and before I show this, I would just want to mention that this is about 10 days out. Not something that we really want to go ahead and really focus all of our attention to because, of course, it's a long ways away. But I want you to notice this is the Euro Long Range Ensembles, like I mentioned, 10 days out. It does have something moving into the Caribbean. It looks like very close to Central America at this point. What you see that loop over on the east side, that would be Lorenzo. I'm going to compare that to the GFS. GFS also, the American model, kind of hinting at that same movement, as you can see, moving into the Caribbean, again, 10 days out. And finally, I'm going to share with you here what the Google AI model is also hinting, kind of like that same direction, again, 10 days out, close to Central America. Now, you know, intensity-wise, and then what's going to happen after it hits this area in the Caribbean or Central America, I mean, it's too hard to tell. Nothing it's even formed. I even said it. There's not even an X right now from the National Hurricane Center. There's no center for this storm to also track. But it is something that we're watching because the American model at this point seems to be developing it just a little bit stronger than the European model, and I'm going to show you the two differences on that. As you can see, this is the European model, and it's not much of anything right now. It is showing that it's trying to have a little spin. I'm going to go back and I'm going to rerun that American model so that you can see, because there's just a little bit more convection, more intensity perhaps in this one, because you could see a little bit more yellows, darker blues as well. So this is what we're looking at. And again, I noticed that on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, there's been a lot of people posting about it. Nothing to get overwhelmed over. It is a late season wave. I think that we can all agree on that. And I want to go ahead and punch in the panel so that we can talk about this, guys, because it's not very likely that we would see a wave coming off the coast of Africa that might have some potential for development this time of year. What do you guys think?
Yeah, you know, it is. You don't really see a whole lot of activity, and I think it's kind of more of a testament to, you kind of showed those two models playing it out, and even some of those ensemble models, and you don't see it developing while it's in the Atlantic, right?
No.
Once this wave makes it into the Caribbean, that's when it has a chance to develop a little bit more. The conditions become a little bit more favorable for development. Water's still plenty warm over there. That's why you likely won't see this wave do not much at all until we get to early next week once it gets there. And it's even still a question of if it wants to try to get its act together at that point. One thing I was touching on earlier is that the southern Caribbean, like that eastern southern portion, once it gets near some of the tip of like South America, it's kind of like a hurricane graveyard. Tropical systems sometimes struggle to develop there, and sometimes you even have tropical systems there that fizzle out. So there's a lot of different factors that will play into this one. I think it just kind of goes to show, you're going to see this on social media a lot, all these different model runs and stuff, just because of how nice and quiet the hurricane season has been. Sometimes people will jump at the first thing that they see. So it's all a patience game. You got to take things step by step. We're in the really early stages of this one where it's more of monitoring. And if it looks like it's going to get its act together in the Caribbean, then we'll start to look for steering patterns in the upper levels of the atmosphere, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I think based on that, the wave's a little bit farther south today than what it was at yesterday. And models were overanalyzing it moving into the northern Gulf the last couple of days because I think that wave was a little bit farther north. I think that also plays a role into why it's not developing in the Atlantic. Look how far south it is. I mean, it's a lot farther south than Lorenzo. It's farther south than the little tip we always like to focus on the western coast of Africa for some tropical systems, waves coming off the coast itself. This is very far south. If it does move east to west like the European is painting it at, it's going to move in that region like Josh just mentioned. That's going to be kind of the ABC Islands where a lot of things don't develop when they move over the ABC Islands and they don't develop in the far southern Caribbean. So it's something we have to watch based on its possible track. This morning, I think it was the 0Z European had some development in the central Caribbean. It looked like a tropical storm could be developing by Monday, Tuesday next week. But then the update, the 06Z, as well as even the overnight runs, the 12Z this morning, not showing as much at all, having it farther and farther south. So it's something to watch. Even if it is farther south, it's no matter what a good thing for us too, because it would actually mean that we have more forcing coming from the United States, suppressing any development farther off to the south, which would cause it to go towards Central America, versus the GFS kind of is back and forth of wanting to split it more towards the Atlantic, split it off towards the north, possibly back to the east. So lots of watch there, but I think the newest update in terms of what we're currently seeing is that the wave itself is a little bit farther south today than what models were initializing it at yesterday.
Yeah, and I think if it, like we said, if it does make it into the Caribbean somehow and it does make it that far, there is a lot of untapped energy. Yeah, there is some warmer sea surface temperatures there, but like Josh had said, it's somewhat silly to think about where it would go from there because of how far out it is. So it's not something that we're going to be hyping or talking about too much because it has to make it that far first. It has to make it through the ABC Islands, through that graveyard there, and that's a long way away. So yeah, this is something we're going to keep our eyes on, but it's important to note that everything you're seeing online, if you are at all, is way too far out to take any sort of landfall seriously on anywhere, even if it's not in the United States. It's just too far.
One thing to point out too, that map you just threw up there, Val, of the sea surface temperatures. I want to look at the northeastern corner of the Gulf, off the Florida state. We didn't have any tropical systems move in the eastern Gulf so far this year, obviously, and obviously not. We didn't have any impacts whatsoever so far. But look how the water temperatures are already cooling off. I was on the coast this past weekend. It is getting cooler in the Gulf because of how many cold fronts we have seen move down the state so far. I mean, we've had morning temperatures in the 60s and 50s in DeSoto County. Places like St. Petersburg, Tampa, North have had temperatures in the 50s, low 60s as well, which is impacting water temperatures in the northern Gulf. So as we get towards late October, it's important to mention that these fronts that we keep seeing will continue to cool those water temperatures down. It doesn't need to have a hurricane move over it to cause the water temperatures to cool off. Nature is going to take its course and it's going to cool off eventually, slower than if a hurricane moved through. But also notice how much energy is still in the Caribbean that's untapped. That's what Oceana just mentioned. But I wanted to point out the adverse of what you're currently already seeing in the northeastern corner of the Gulf.
And my pool is getting colder too.
Yeah, I noticed that.
That's a sign that, things are trending in the
That's
right
That's
direction.
because you don't want to pay for the heat to heat it up, my friend.
Not my complex over there.
You gotta heat it up, but definitely good point. You can definitely tell from that graphic how it's more of a lighter shade of that orange versus the Caribbean. It's bright red right there in the middle, and that's something that I do want to bring up because I know that will the ingredients be there? Let's say that this tropical storm does make it into the Caribbean. We're seeing these sea surface temperatures. And then I also wanted to take it a step further. I wanted to see what kind of shear would we be dealing with. And obviously too, right, the timing of our next front. Like you mentioned, Zach, we started getting those cold fronts headed our way. Could that also play a role? Oh, I got too ahead of myself.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Whoa,
What is that?
We're not there
Spoiling
yet.
his segment.
That has nothing to do with it. All right,
I was
let's
asleep
see.
when that happened, by the way, but go on.
Here we go. So if we go ahead and punch us, so this is kind of like what the shear would look like. I'm gonna see if I can move it with my finger. I didn't have any stops into this. Okay, it doesn't want to do it. But basically, this is kind of what there we go. So it's starting. Do you guys see that? Let's try one more time. Here we go. So it seems like it's very low shear or no shear at all prior to Wednesday afternoon in this area. And we're thinking that it might probably get here around the beginning of the week. So could that potentially, be a factor in terms of the ingredients that this potential wave, could be?
You could see the shear increase around that low, though. If you play it one more time, you could see that shear build in across the central Atlantic. And it's always because the low with high winds, that graphic is always going to pick up on the higher winds within a tropical system. But notice how broad that is. I mean, that shear moves in across all of the Leeward Islands, the entire area of the Antilles. That shear builds in across there as well, which would be that time frame, that Monday and Tuesday where we're looking. So even though it looks like there's not much shear there, there is a decent amount that's still in that area that would limit development when it's in the Atlantic, and even when it starts to move into the Caribbean from Tuesday into Wednesday. Still something we have to watch. So because of that shear proponent, I think that's something we have to watch tremendously. The water temperatures are there to help some growth. Obviously, tropical systems feed off of warm water temperatures, so that is already a check mark in a possible growing phase. But if there's any little bit of wind shear up there, which will be the case as we see in the Caribbean a lot, no matter what, any time of the year, there's always wind shear that builds in. I don't see too much of an explosive system per se as of yet. Josh, what are you seeing too?
Yeah, especially in the eastern Caribbean, right? That's where it's going to encounter the most issues. Just based on the past several years, the more favorable spot in the Gulf and the Caribbean is more so the western Caribbean and the Gulf as well. And you could see some slightly less shear there. I think even if you look at some of the long-range models, they kind of tap into the really warm water and the less shear once it gets into the western Caribbean, and it tries to, blow it up a little bit. But here's the thing, you need a system for it and able to grow, right? So you need this thing to actually survive the eastern Caribbean in order for it to make it to the western Caribbean and be able to strengthen. So if it just remains a tropical wave, it's not able to get its act together in the eastern Caribbean, it is likely going to just continue to slide west, eventually reaching Central America. That's a lot of what those European ensemble numbers were showing. So again, it just goes to show lots of possibilities, lots to watch for. And the timing of it all, since it's so far away, is why there's no current threat to anyone at all.
And I do want to mention that, once we see something in the Caribbean, sometimes it slows down enough that it waits for one of those fronts to clear through the state of Florida, and then it allows that whatever system could be to turn to the north and move it to the Gulf. So right now, I mean, honestly, there's a lot of scenarios still open on the table because of how far we are away from this system. Not saying it's going to move it to the Gulf at all, but it's why on all of our graphics on Wink News this morning, we were saying it is something to watch that we're going to watch for over the next 5 to 7 days. And it's why we're specifically going to watch for that in the Caribbean next Monday and Tuesday to see what could be there. We don't want to tell our viewers and listeners what's going on and saying, okay, this is not going to be a thing whatsoever. Tune us off, don't tune in. Anytime there could be a possibility of anything in the Western Caribbean this time of year, we do have to watch closely, because even though there's a lot of troughing that moves in across the central and eastern United States, you could get just a little break between those fronts that could allow a system to move into the Gulf And it's something to keep in mind of. Just like that graphic shows, the frequency, anytime we see something move into the Western Caribbean, it can turn more to the north, move towards Texas, move towards Louisiana, or again, if it fits perfectly between two fronts, it can move towards the state of Florida. But again, a lot is still yet to be seen in terms of any projections. We're not really seeing that per se, but that possibility is always there for anything that could be in the Caribbean this time of the year.
Everyone that's talking about it is saying that this is an unusual late season wave coming off of the coast of Africa. What do you guys think? Because from what we see here, everything in yellow is likely possible that we could see some development. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, you have to remember that the wave itself is not actually a tropical system, right? So it's not actually going to fit into this particular graphic, which is showing the paths of actual tropical systems, right? So this thing is just a wave. It's just a piece of energy. It's likely going to stay just a piece of energy. It's not going to develop at all while it makes that long journey across the Atlantic. So, you know, yes, you don't see a lot of waves at this point, but again, it's just a wave. It's not going to be an actual tropical system making its way across. When we start to watch for that potential is when it does cross over into the Caribbean.
Yeah, I think another thing that is more unusual about it is how far south it is. That is really what they mean, I think, in terms of why it's a late season tropical wave that's also very far south in terms of its location. So that's also kind of a bit more unusual than what we have seen in the past, where all the tropical waves were kind of more so farther up on the coast of Africa.
I'm trying to recall the patterns that developed into Helene, that developed into the Ians, that developed into the Michaels, and I can't recall if they're exact tropical waves. I mean, there had to have been some type of forcing within the atmosphere to cause something like that to pop up. Most of the time they are areas of moisture from waves. You don't have to have something as explosive or as seen on satellite, you know, right now is a full-on steady wave, but any little bit of amplification in the atmosphere, up and down movements across the atmosphere can be tapped into and turned into tropical systems. So I was trying to think of years past, if they were tropical waves that didn't develop in the Atlantic and just moved into the Caribbean and then began to develop. Obviously, we knew that with Milton. That was a wave that moved actually from west to east across the region. But a lot of times we could see even old fronts. If these fronts that hold on, we have a stationary front right now in the Florida Straits. If that bit of convergence, that bit of forcing just sags farther and farther south, even though it weakens, that convergence still exists slightly. That could be enough to spin up something in the Caribbean and have it move into the Gulf. So it doesn't take much this time of year. Wilma developed from one such scenario back in 2005.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the storms we've watched over the past 5 years or so are a combination of all that. You've got a lot of rich tropical moisture in the Western Caribbean. You sometimes get that stalled front that sags a little bit further south, and you also have that Central American gyre. So you kind of got a lot of different factors that kind of work together in order to spin up these pockets of energy a little bit closer to home, and all of a sudden it's got all the ingredient that it needs. So this one, again, a little bit more of a unique situation, but it could just end up being a pocket of moisture making its way, you know, into the Western Caribbean at some point, and perhaps it's a little bit longer to see if this thing develops. So it just goes to show all the different possibilities.
And I'm interested to see this graphic gets updated today from the Climate Prediction Center. So I'm very interested to see when this gets updated this afternoon, what they are going to say within the Caribbean, what area they might pinpoint in the Caribbean for next week. Of course, the Climate Prediction Center always puts this graphic out first before the National Hurricane Center picks up on any actual waves that could be developing within 7 days. So it would be important to note to see what Matt, Greg, and the team puts together with this graphic later on in the day today based on that possibility.
Good point. Good point, guys. Good chat. I mean, I think that this was very knowledgeable for a lot of people tuning in right now, having all these questions about what is it that we're tracking in terms of this new wave coming off. So, yeah, good insight.
I heard 24 minutes of us saying a lot to watch. We don't know what's going to happen, and here's the basis of what we're keeping an eye on, and that was pretty good.
That's the beauty of something that's, you know, over 7 to 10 days away. Yeah, that's the way it's going to be.
But it's good for folks, you know, to figure out, well, let's see what are they working on
I just had to make fun of myself for it for a second.
That's what we do.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, let's keep going because we have a couple of things to get to. And I know that today, Oceana, you are bringing us a hurricane tip of the day. Why don't you go ahead and share that with us?
Yeah, I want to talk about preparing your pets because your pets are a member of your family too. So when it comes to preparing for any storms, these are some things to keep in mind. One of that would be, the most important is at least 3 days worth of fresh water, food, their medicines, and of course, keep their tag on them, their collar with their name tag, and if you have the room for it in your Go Kit, if you have life vests for your family, you're definitely going to want to have a life vest for your pup as well. Now, if you also have enough room, or if you're perhaps not evacuating anywhere and you're staying in your house, just keep the things that make them comfortable. You know, I know my dog gets really nervous around thunderstorms when there's thunder or lightning, so it's a nice idea to keep comfortable items like their toys, relaxation treats. I know those work for some dogs, not mine. And there's also their blankets. They make thunder shirts as well. We have tried that. That didn't work for my dog either, but it's always a nice thing to try. I know it works really well on little dogs. Now, other things that I want to mention, keep a towel. You know, it's just nice if your pet happens to get wet, they're gonna be cold. You want to have a towel for them. Keep a photo of you and your pet, of course, so you can have proof of ownership if, heaven forbid, your dog or your cat gets lost. And also, you're gonna want to microchip your pets as soon as you can before a storm. It's always a good idea regardless, and it's very important that you find a pet-friendly shelter or a place to stay because not all of them are. So if you are evacuating to a shelter, make sure that you find a pet-friendly one, and it'll always say on there. Now here's some other things that I wanted to show you. This is the collapsible water bowl. I talked about this a couple weeks ago. These are super handy, not only just for hurricane preparation, but also when you take your dog on walks, you just it just hangs really, really small. It doesn't take any room. And then the one on the right side of your screen is actually one that I have. And you just fill it with water and then you just pour it out and they can drink out of it like a bowl and then it just snaps back into place.
Can you put a quarter in there?
We'll talk about the quarter test. You know what? Let's talk about that tomorrow. That's a plan because you can put a quarter in your cup any day. Yes, Josh.
What about that
putting
square?
In a water bottle just each morning for fun.
No.
See what happens over time.
I want to know, what about that square, that grass that, Josh, you were talking about it this morning? You said that your cat has like a make pretend.
Oh.
Could that be used for hurricane prep?
No, that was just a toy. It was just it's a patch of
that
grass.
That looks like it could be for hurricane prep. They're like a little piece of sod for your animal to pee or
No,
go
it's
to the
a toy.
restroom.
It has it's got volume. There's like golf balls in it for them to knock around.
Do you hide quarters in there to have your cat find too?
Huh?
Do you hide quarters in that for your cat to find too?
No, because then I'd have to fill it with water and put it in my freezer.
And then open your freezer and check it out after the day's over.
See if it melts.
Does the plastic grass get longer if you water it?
I haven't tested that theory yet, but I'll give it a try and let you know, Zach. I'll put it in the sun too.
Check back in with us. Guys, I have some comments coming in on Facebook. I want to read them to
They're
you.
probably saying, what are you guys talking about right now?
People are like, what's going on?
You'll find out eventually.
Late, yes.
People are wondering what's going on in today's episode. Michael Yancey, he says, hi there, happy Tuesday to you. Sarah Bella, she says that she would get humidity out of Florida. That's her weather choice of the day, I guess. All right, let's move on. We're running out of time, so let's go ahead. This is the Weather Watcher, the Wink Weather Watcher of the day.
Real
Josh, what do you
quick,
have?
amazing video captured by, I'll say, several of our Southwest Florida residents and weather watchers. They sent them in last night. This, I believe, you can correct me, I know Oceana knows more about the space stuff than I do. It's a Starship. It was like a mega launch, something cool like that. I believe it was a test launch too. It was visible from our Southwest Florida skies, but here's the catch. It didn't take off from Cape Canaveral. I believe it took off from Texas.
Yeah.
So I think that's even
pretty
cooler
amazing that we
were able to see it. It looks like a comet, right? I know a lot of folks saw that last night and said, whoa, what's going on here? So luckily, thanks to all of our weather watchers, including Michael there in the Northwest Cape, we had a beautiful look at it, and we know exactly what it was.
Could it be also that we had such nice clear skies?
Oh, yeah.
That it was so visible?
Absolutely, yeah. If we had some clouds out there, nobody's seeing this thing, except for maybe a handful of us that said, I swear I saw it, guys. But luckily, everyone was able to see this one if they were up last night at this time, which I think 3 of us probably weren't.
No, unfortunately.
Guys, and also in terms of launches, aren't we seeing more launches happen?
There's been a lot.
Recently, I know that.
I think we have one more tonight.
They're doing a lot of research.
Yeah, there might be.
I think we have one more tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of it is, some of it's Starlink, some of it's more research-based, some of it's, I don't even.
It's hard to keep up.
I'm a big space exploration fan, so go for it.
Me too. I want to read into this for sure.
What about the ocean? We need to explore the ocean.
I'm scared.
Right?
A little
Val,
bit.
gotta get on it.
I'm all right with that.
All right, and if you want to become a weather watcher, you could do so by heading to our website, winknews.com. You can fill out a release form that will have you sign, and then you'll also have an exclusive access to our private Facebook group.
Exclusive.
Very good. Very exclusive. Guys, any takeaways from today's episode that before we log off?
Nothing going on, a lot to watch and a lot to keep tuning in for. Next
Another
5 to
beautiful
7
day
days.
outside locally.
Yes.
Coffee's
I'll be
still
getting
good.
outside.
Coffee day 2, Andrew. Awesome.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. Thank you. Andrew, give us a thumbs up at least. He's going to, let's see, he's here, guys.
Full
There
screen.
he
There we
is.
go.
There we
Full
go.
screen thumbs up.
Approval.
Love Andrew. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining the panel, and thank you for watching. We'll catch you tomorrow at 11 o'clock, like every Monday to Friday. Ciao.